On December of 2019, we dedicated the Jewish Book Festival to the late Israeli author Amos Oz on the first anniversary of his passing. And we did that with different events. Of course, we showcased his books. We screened and debated the film A Tale of Love and Darkness, based on his autobiography. We had a very interesting conversation with his daughter, Fania Oz Salzberg. And on closing night, we had a special event, a dinner theater production. We staged a solo performance by actress and playwright Emily Sztabzyb, a local actress, where her character journeys through some of Amos Oz's books. It was a sold-out house. This year, on the second anniversary of Amos Oz's passing, we thought it would be a good idea to offer this material to the whole world, to all Amos Oz readers. Emily this time performs a dramatic reading of the same play. Please enjoy Amos Oz, Genetics of an Author.
Oh, Savta. Let's start at the very beginning. If only Mary Poppins were here. Books, books, books. It's a genetic condition, I believe. Amos Oz, the only author taking up more shelf real estate than works featuring Julie Andrews. Savta didn't pretend not to hold favorites. Neither do I. How fitting that Oz and you, Savta, chose to depart this world on the very same day. What a gaping hole you have both left. Hers feels like an ache. Yours like an echo. I did not know you, but I read you incessantly, obsessively, objectively. Savta would read to me, and later when I could, I to myself. Your words echo through every childhood memory. I am narrated by you. Sumchi. Oh, I remember how I attempted to follow that character's lead. A boy trades his bicycle for a train set. I remember the morning I rode my new red bicycle to school. Do you like my bike? Thank you. Ima and Abba gave it to me for my birthday. I am 6 years old. Red is my best color. I like your Hot Wheels. Are they the real ones from America? What else have you got in your backpack? That afternoon, I walked back home from Beit Sefer. But Elliot hadn't given me a train set for my beautiful bicycle. Of course not. No one brings a shiny new train set to school, but he had given me an orange mechanical pencil with lead refills and 2 Hot Wheels. The real ones from America. No trade backs. Playground law. And Not sure if I even told you, Savta, what really happened to my bike. I know I never told Ima or Abba. Jerusalem in 1995, just like today, saw bicycles without locks grow legs and learn to walk. So no one questioned my first tall tale. Well, now you know the truth. Sumchi. Things turned out pretty well for you anyway, and I can't complain myself. Amos Oz. I will need another box, as I cannot toss any of you away. Oh, what I would give for some Nana tea, Savta. Did you leave me some? A cup to share with you and Amos while we continue our journey together, only now with me alone. I'm sure with time, I will realize that more of me has followed your stories, Oz, more than I care to pay tribute to. Oh, don't worry, Julie. You won't be tossed out either. Raindrops, roses, whiskers, and kittens. I'm not ready to part with childhood memories of Sunday afternoon on the couch, leaning on Savta's ample shoulder. And as the only grandchild, there were no cousins to take turns wedged against it. And all the pinwheel cookies were for me. Not a section to be found on Oz's political writings. Not that I'm surprised, Savta, but I am relieved. To toss away any of his works would have pained me. But I'm sure it was difficult for you to omit even those from your collection, no matter how vehemently you opposed his political ideals. The overly sheltered kibbutznik should have been given more time to devote to reading and writing on the kibbutz and less responsibility focused towards scooping the manure. I remember your rants, Savta. Much as you might now prefer, I had forgotten, but so colorful in your old age. More and more red came to your speech as the rose began to fade from your withered cheeks. Too many years focused on scooping poop, and now he cannot help but serve it right back to us. Oh, Savta, of course, I don't pretend to completely disagree. But of late, you couldn't quite grasp that not everyone in Israel leaned as we do. Savta, are you comfortable? Can you see the podium from here? Now, I have to go backstage and wait for my name to be called. I'll come back and get you after I receive my degree. Oh, yes, of course. You may sit there, Professor. The seat is open. Professor, this is my Savta. Savta, this is Professor Aaron Cohen. He taught me my political sciences elective. Are you sure he wasn't in your class? Doesn't look old enough for the tzahal. Savta, that's fine, son. You may sit there as long as you haven't filled her head with any of that two-state garbage. Otherwise, you'll have to find yourself another seat. Savta. Oh, yes, I understand, Professor. It is a bit close to the stage. But he was kind to an old woman whose filter was thinning, politely bidding adieu, as do I, so often. At that moment, I found myself embarrassed, yet envious of your growing bravery. Politics are complicated here in Haaretz, and no one should stay away from debate. But for me, that's always been easier said than done, and perhaps why I devote my interests to fiction. Fiction like you. 7th grade, and while I shouldn't have read you at such a young age, there was no keeping me from my obsession. Already then, If I'd waited, perhaps I wouldn't have fallen into the same trap as your protagonist, caught by my mother for taking money from her purse to buy the new sneakers I needed. Did you happen to see a bill? I might have dropped it from my wallet. I know I had more shekels in here when I got home. Maybe some fell out when I dropped my purse down, Amalia? Amalia? Blushing hard, I'm sure it was comically upsetting to Emma. Amalia, you wouldn't have borrowed it, would you? I needed new sneakers. My old sneakers pinched. I told you they pinched last week, but you still hadn't bought me new ones. I was helping you because you should have helped me. Is that so? And you see nothing wrong with this action, Amalia? When you took from my wallet that which didn't belong to you, it did not seem dishonest, unjust, unlawful? And in my mind, the words in this book rang loud and clear, and so I spoke them. I thought about it, and I found no error. Emma hadn't yet read this book, or I think at this point she may have laughed and then punished me instead for reading adult fiction. Or maybe lovingly ridiculed me for misunderstanding that words that work, in fact, do not work. In literature, may not, or in fact, most certainly will not work in real life. But she was too busy to keep up with Oz's yearly output of brilliance. Busy with all my many demands on top of new sneakers. No error, Amalia? No error in theft? And just as this character repeats again and again in this text, I stood my ground. I thought about it and I found no error. And how about now, Amalia? Error in disrespecting your mother? I don't know how she put up with me over those tumultuous pre-teenage years, but she didn't have to manage me much more that week, as I existed solitarily confined to my bedroom. The wisdom I gained from the book and that experience valuable, even if it pinched more smartly than the sneakers I'd replaced. If only all the ways my life paralleled your works, Oz, were quite so sweet. Judith, as I read your pages only a few years ago, I imagined myself as Atalia. And while I had my head buried in Shmuel's story, entranced by her, just as he was, a phone call drew an unwanted parallel between her life and mine. Emma? Emma, what's wrong? Emma? Emma! Emma! Abba? Emma? Emma, breathe! And as I urged her to take air, I wished by some miracle I would stop. What happened? The same concoction of violence and confusion that had swallowed up Atalia's father had taken my own. They slaughtered him, she said. Not with sadness or hatred, but with a fierceness that resembled euphoria. They slit his throat, that's what. He may have lain there dying all night. He may have called for help. He may have tried to crawl down toward the road on his stomach, bleeding. We'll never know. My Abba's death was not perhaps as dramatic, certainly not as pointed as that of Italia's father. An innocent bystander at a bus stop. An explosion. And as I sat Shiva, I would steal moments in quiet corners with this book. Attempting at finding some comfort in another woman's loss. Sometimes feeling almost less alone in her company. I imagined you had sent this character to me, Oz. And for that I thanked you, as I read through my tears for many months, my sadness appreciating hers. I can't believe it's been 5 years. Tale of love and darkness. Is the story of a boy who grows up in war-torn Jerusalem in a small apartment crowded with books in 12 languages. The story of an adolescent whose life changes forever with his mother's suicide. The story of a man who leaves the constraints of his family to join a kibbutz, change his name, marry, have children. The story of a writer who becomes an active participant in the political life of his nation. Tzavta, you were proud of your nephew, your dear little sister's son. And we all knew it, just as we respected why you could never reach out to him. You loved him, even if you couldn't stand the pain of having him in your life. You filled your life with him, quite completely. Little Amos. Reading him was the closest you could come to bringing your little sister back. Clearly she lived in this, his masterpiece. Her life in these pages. And also her death. And also her son. When I first read it, I thought, finally, an Oz book that doesn't parallel my life, or that I won't try to copy or feel intimidated by. Until years later, and in his own way, not knowing how he puppeteers from afar and now from beyond. Oz, you brought a future to my life. We're getting married next summer in Jerusalem. Near the university. That's where we met. He was here studying your works as part of his PhD program in literature. Having been so inspired by the first Israeli author to be translated into Chinese, he fell in love with this tale and was drawn to come here. And when we met and began dating, and months later, he learned of my genetic connection to you, Amos. Well, I think he loved me more. But I'm all right with that. Because just as my genes are a part of me, you are a part of me. Amos Oz. You wrote, as your name suggests, in truth, on truth. Well, truth be told, I didn't imagine I'd marry a Chinese man. And I don't think my dear Ima had the easiest time with it at first, the foreign idea. But he's a man from China who is passionate about Hebrew literature, and who loves a girl from a place he grew up knowing nothing about and now wants everything to do with. And so somehow, I think this little leaf on a branch of your family tree, a leaf you didn't even know existed, has a lot to thank you for. More than the average Israeli or avid reader. That's a lot already. I did not know you, but I read you. You did not know me, but you are a part of me.